So if you're not on Twitter, you might have missed the latest Poppy Playtime thing. We had this ARG, maybe. It was a choose your own adventure thing featuring Bunzo Bunny, or a Bunzo Bunny, because we're going to come on to that. I don't think this is the same Bunzo from chapter 2. But we had this ARG choose your own adventure. Now we're still not sure exactly whether this is a teaser for chapter 3 or whether it's just something fun for Easter. It was very Easter themed. But I want to go through it. I want to give my opinions. I want to show some things that you might have missed, some little hidden details, give some discussions and some theories, and we can all discuss it together down in the comments below. This is going to be a slightly low energy video today. I'm still not 100% recovered. If you didn't see my post, I got chicken pox. Like the actual chicken pox. It was terrible. It was horrible. I hated it. I've been very ill for like 2 weeks. So that's why there's been no videos. Just as we were getting back in the swing of creating regular videos, I had to go and get sick, didn't I? But anyway, I'm going to do my best, but please forgive me if it's not the same level of energy. My brain is also a bit broken still. But yeah, so these, first of all, we got this comic. This comic was a choose your own adventure style thing. If you're not on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, it's there. You can go and check it out. I'll leave a link. But if you're not on Twitter, essentially every single comic book strip, we had a choice, and Mob Games would give us a poll to choose exactly what Bunzo did next. So for example, in this first one, we get introduced to Bunzo and Bucky, of course, the most important character here, Bucky. And Bunzo is going on an egg hunt, again, very Easter themed. And we got to choose which of these 3 characters Bunzo got to interact with. And the community ended up choosing Bron. Proud of you. Good job, guys. Of course, we had to choose Bron. But yeah, I want to go through these. Each one has a little bit of discussion material. And then at the end, there is a render, a fully 3D render, which actually has a lot to discuss. So in the first one, we got Bunzo, and he's telling us he wants to go on this egg hunt to look for some secret eggs. Again, very, very Easter themed. And there are the 3 characters here that Bunzo wants to interact with. We've got PJ Pokepillar, we have Boxy Boo, which if you've not played Project Playtime, he's one of the playable characters in that. Very cool design. I like Boxy Boo a lot. And then we have Bron, of course, who is one of my favorites. I'm looking forward to seeing Bron. And Bunzo is basically asking one of these pals for a clue, and the community chose Bron. The first thing you might notice about this is that the backgrounds of these are renders from inside the game. Now, this one is the corridor from chapter 2. I don't know whether this means that this is set before chapter 2 or not. I'm leaning towards that it was before chapter 2. And also we're going to discuss, I don't think this is the same Bunzo from chapter 2. I've got a bunch of reasons why I don't think it is. I think it's a different Bunzo, but we'll come on to that in just a little while. So this was the first one. There wasn't too much to delve into. The community did choose Bron. Now in the second one, Bunzo goes to speak to Bron, and he says he's so tall he can probably see all the hiding spots. It's true, he's got a long neck. Howdy, Bron. Have you seen any secret eggs? Bucky and I are on a hunt. Bron then says, hi, Bunzo. That sounds like fun. I think I saw one hidden up on the catwalks in the game station. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is this is potentially confirming that we will see a living Bron. Now, I've had this discussion quite a lot. I'm still convinced we're going to see Bron in chapter 3. We'll see. But I do think we will see a living Bron eventually in the game. Now, some people have said that they don't think so, because how would they make Bron scary? Because he's just a big dinosaur. I think Mob Games can do it. I think Mob can create a reasonable way to make Bron scary, especially considering that he is a very hungry dinosaur. And considering the little teaser we got in chapter 2 with the Bron cutout, I think we're going to see a Bron. And I think this is pretty much confirmation of that. But Bron tells us that there are eggs in the game station, which is an area that we know from chapter 2. And then Bunzo goes along, he's going to go to the game station, but then he smells this funny smell. And this is very, very obviously the location where we see Experiment 1006 in chapter 2. Now, what's really interesting about this, and this is the reason why I think this was set before chapter 2, is if you look, I don't think I can see Mommy Longlegs here. I remember when Mommy Longlegs dies, there was parts of her left in there. There was a lot of blood. I don't think you can see any of that here. This looks very clean. So I think this is before chapter 2, which would also make sense because we know that 1006 is at least in this area in chapter 2. So it makes sense that this is set before. But it's interesting that Bunzo can smell something under there. What can he smell? He says he smells an egg. There's like a bad smell coming from under there, which, knowing that Experiment 1006 is doing potentially experiments on other toys or is building some sort of like Frankenstein style toy. Yeah, there could be some dead, rotting things under there. Humans, dolls, who knows? Very interesting that we saw a smell. But anyway, Bunzo goes to the game station. He goes in here, it's very dark, and he sees that there is an egg up on the rafters. And obviously it's a real egg. It's a bird's nest. It makes a lot of sense. There's a couple of things I want to talk about in here though. First of all, I don't know if it's my eyes. I am getting old. But right here, I see a very blue tall thing. And I don't know if that's just shadow or if that's supposed to be a Huggy. Because that looks very tall. Looks like there's a yellow foot here. I don't know. But then if you look on the next one, there also seems to be something really tall and red here. Now, this could be maybe a Kissy Missy or something else. But it is interesting that this seems to be... This very much is blue. And there's something blue in the background. And it looks very, very, very tall. So I don't know if that is anything worth. I have manipulated these images and tried to find things, but there's not really much. Now, Bunzo goes for the egg, and we chose to use the grab pack. We had the option of going the boxes or using the grab pack. The grab pack made most sense to me, and that's what the community chose as well. So then Bunzo goes for the egg, and unfortunately, the grab pack squishes it. Now, this is gross, and I'm sorry, but there was some sort of bird in there. Now this is actually as creepy and cute as this whole sequence is. I actually think this gives us a massive, massive clue. So for example, Bunzo right now almost wasn't expecting this egg to contain a living animal. Now, if you think about that, what does that mean? That means that Bunzo is most likely a child, right? Or has the brain of a child, because most adults will know that an egg could potentially contain a living bird or a living creature. So the fact that Bunzo is very shocked and surprised that the egg contains a living creature either means he's young enough that he doesn't know, or whatever process, you know, turned him into a living Bunzo didn't give him that information. We still don't 100% know how the process works of bringing these toys to life. For example, we don't know if they retain all of their memories, some of their memories, or none of their memories. We just don't know at this point. But the idea that Bunzo just isn't expecting the bird to be in there is like a big, I think that's a big clue to the personality of Bunzo and who could be in there. Now, again, if you go back to my previous videos, I've already theorized that in chapter 3, we are going to go to the play care. Well, I say I've theorized, it's pretty obvious. We know we're going to the play care. But I've theorized that the play care was where they were holding the younger of the orphans. We know that orphans were experimented on. This is confirmed. But the orphans were from a range of, I think 2 to 12 or something like that. And that means there must have been a place for the younger orphans to be held. And I do think this is where the play care is. So I think this is a massive clue that whoever was transferred into Bunzo was quite young, or young enough to not realize that there was going to be a living bird in this egg. Now, after this, Bunzo is quite distressed, and he goes to try and save the bird, but he actually stands on this plank. Now, this is also interesting because I think this fits into a massive theme of the overall story and the overall game. Now, what I mean by this is in chapter 2, if you remember, right outside the furnace, right outside the furnace where you hide from Mommy Longlegs, there is a giant hole in the floor that somebody just threw a few planks over. Now, I even mentioned on my first playthrough that doesn't seem very safe. That seems a bit, you know, silly. But if you look around the factory, there's a bunch of these really dangerous things. The factory seems to be falling apart. Now, we know it's been abandoned for 10 years, but the fact that there were planks put on this hole meant that this hole was present before all the staff, you know, died, were transferred into toys or whatever happened, before the downfall. So the idea that the factory was falling apart is actually very consistent with the reason why the Bigger Bodies Initiative was set up in the first place. We now know that one of the reasons why the Bigger Bodies Initiative was to save money on lawsuits because staff were becoming injured. And I think one of the reasons why this was the case was because because Playtime Co. were starting to struggle financially. And because they were struggling financially, they probably did what most companies do, which is lay off staff. Less staff makes more for a more unsafe work environment. If you think about it, if you've got all these machines, the staff that are there are more tired because they're doing more work, probably doing more hours. There's less people to look after things like health and safety, and there's also less people to upkeep the factory. So all these things together are making the factory a more dangerous place. the staff that were left were becoming, you know, increasingly more injured, and accidents were happening. And I think this was part of the spiral of the downfall of the factory. But what's also interesting about this, though, is that this seems like a slide, kind of like we saw in chapter 2 with Elliot Ludwig's slide that we go down. But this one is straight down, and it leads to this room that seems to be sealed off. Now, why they would make this, I don't know. Is this like maybe almost like a garbage chute or a rubbish chute, as we'd call it? Is it something like that, where they would throw broken toys down, or what? Like, this seems really dangerous for absolutely no reason. Like, what is the point of this slide or the chute existing? It just seems odd to me. It seems really odd that they would have the risk of this being here. Even when the factory was fully manned and fully staffed, it seems odd. And we've actually seen these in chapter 1 too. There was these holes going straight down. And I even mentioned back then, this is weird. It's weird that they have all these really dangerous looking things in the factory. Like, come on, what's going on? But anyway, Bunzo unfortunately falls down, and he appears quite injured. He yells out for help. This was another choice that we had. We had the option, I can't remember what the other option was, but we had the option to yell out for help, which we did, which didn't seem to do anything. No one can hear us, or if they can, they don't seem to be wanting to help us. But then we get these disturbing images. We have 1 hour. Now, I'm most likely going to assume that this means this is how long Bunzo was down here for. Now, it seems like he can't get out, which is also interesting because this right here, if you go on to the next one, this right here looks like it's open. So I don't know why Bunzo isn't trying to get out. I don't know if he's just too injured to move, or if he is actually trapped in this room. I'm not sure which. It looks very dark. He's got his flashlight on, but he doesn't seem to be able to leave. Maybe he's just too injured. He is bleeding quite a lot. Now, again, this is also very interesting because this fall, if you notice, he fell straight down. Now, if I was to fall straight down that far, I'd probably be very, very injured. Bunzo is injured, but he's not that bad. You know, he's still alive right now, which could have implications for Huggy Wuggy in chapter 1, because we saw Huggy fell a long way, and it does seem like these toys can get injured, which we saw with Huggy, now we've seen with Bunzo, but it also seems like they can survive, at least for some time anyway. And as we'll get onto in a minute, it seems like Bunzo dies, but we don't know exactly how that happened. But yeah, he's injured. You can see the little bird there, which is kind of gross. I'm not sure what some of these things are. Obviously, we see Bucky, we can see the flashlight. I'm not sure what this red thing is. But yeah, so he's down there for 1 hour, and he doesn't seem too happy about it. Then he's down there for 12 hours, and he's holding his chest like he's definitely injured. He's definitely, you know, he's not having a good time, let's just say. Then we go there for a day, and as you can see, he's starting to panic. It looks like Bunzo is starting to worry. You can see like the little shaking lines here show he's shaking. There's also a big pool of blood. So I do think that he's really starting to worry that, you know, this is the end of him, which also has a lot of implications. The idea that these toys are aware of their mortality. They're aware that they can die. Possibly something to talk about in the future. And then we get to this one, which I believe the artist has said this was supposed to signify that whoever was writing this ran out of energy. Now, it could be Bunzo that wrote this, which is weird, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But now you can see there's a few different things. You can see, first of all, you can see his eye, which we're going to come back to this in a second, where his eye's hanging out. You can see his stuffings coming out here. I think he's dead at this point. Now, the blood has dried up, and also his pictures, these pictures seem to be like they've been moved, right? They've been moved. I think these were in the bucket and now they've been spread about, but also the bird has moved too. If you compare these two, compare the last one, the bird is here. It's very stationary this entire time, which we know it's dead, right? But now it's moved, which means that either somebody in here moved it or the bird moved itself. I don't think the bird moved itself. I think the bird is dead, but it looks like somebody moved it. Now, this image is also covered in blood, which is interesting. And again, are these images these, which I don't know why. I don't know how Bunzo would take a photo of himself, but who knows? And then finally we get the render, which says the end, which I think is actually a funny little joke. I think it's saying the end of the comic, but I also think it's saying the end for Bunzo, which is kind of funny. But what's really, there's a lot of interesting things about this, but what's really interesting about it is the picture here if you zoom in, is one of the pictures from the comic book, right? Like this is the picture. If you look at it, this is pretty much this. You can see the flashlight, you can see Bunzo, and you can see the squiggle line. Now you can see the flashlight, you can see Bunzo, and then you can see it's now a dashed line, but you know, why is there a picture of Bunzo in front of Bunzo? That's one I can't quite figure out myself. It's very odd. This one I think is also another picture of Bunzo. It looks like that one's the 12 hours maybe. So why is this here? Did like Bunzo write how long he was down here for? But then how did Bunzo have pictures of himself? That's what I can't quite figure out in my head. Maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe I'm still too tired. But some really interesting things I want to talk about. First of all, we have the claw marks. The claw marks, I'm pretty obvious. I think it's a 1006 reference. And I think we have the reason why 1006 is here. So if you look at Bunzo, he's missing his eyes. He is missing his eyes. Now, we've all speculated at this point that 1006 is doing some sort of Frankenstein style experiment. He's taking parts of creatures to either make his own body or to make a body for something. And we kind of got this speculation, this theory from Mommy Longlegs when she's dying. She says, what have you done? You'll make me a part of him. And the logical conclusion of that is she was talking about 1006. She's going to be a part of 1006. Although there is still the possibility that him wasn't referring to 1006. 1006 could be making a body for somebody else. That's just a possibility, just saying it now. But either way, it looks like 1006 has taken Bunzo's eyes here. And that's very interesting because whoever needs the eyes, whether it's 1006 or somebody else, is that implying that before this moment he was blind? Because if he's taken the eyes, that implies he didn't have eyes. We've only seen the claw so far, so maybe he didn't even have a face, who knows? But it's interesting that there's a good potential that he was blind while he did all this. So I don't know how he would know that Bunzo was here. But another real big thing that I want to talk about is the teeth. Now the teeth, there's so much to talk about with the teeth, because if you look here in the mouth, you can see that he's got these spiky teeth, the same teeth that we saw with Bunzo in chapter 2. But this is also why I don't think this is Bunzo from chapter 2, by the way. So for example, so this is Bunzo from chapter 2, and you can see that he's got the spiky teeth as well. But he's also got these sort of rabbit looking teeth here. This is why I don't think this is the same Bunzo. I think this is a completely different one. But if you look at this one, he's missing those two rabbit teeth, which again, does that mean 1006 took those rabbit teeth away? I don't know. Maybe he needed the teeth. I'm not sure. But what's really interesting about this, and that's something I want to talk about, is the idea that in the comic books, if you actually look at Bunzo in the comics, you can see that he has the two teeth, but he doesn't have the spiky teeth. He only has these teeth. He looks a lot more cute and a lot more innocent. Now, if we assume that this is from the perspective of Bunzo, does this mean that Bunzo Bunny is not seeing reality as we're seeing it? What I mean by that is Bunzo thinks that he's this cute little innocent rabbit. He's running around, he's happy and smiley, but actually the whole time he's running around as this monstrous little rabbit. The implications of this are so massive, because it could be saying that the dolls are actually seeing a version of reality that fits their mindset, or maybe fits their programming. Again, it could be Playtime Co. are instilling this in them. We know that Playtime Co. are doing psychological manipulation. So is it that the dolls are actually seeing a completely different reality to what we're seeing? That could explain why their behavior is so odd. For example, Huggy at the beginning, he's playing with us. He seems kind of friendly, if anything else. And then later on, he's attacking us. In his mind, is he just playing? Like, is he just playing games with us? But in reality, he's actually, you know, on a murderous rampage. It would be very sinister and very poignant that these children that are being transferred into toys think they're just having a fun playtime, but in reality, they're ripping people apart. And it's possible that some of these toys have more of a grasp on reality than others, maybe Kissy Missy for an example. And some of them think that what they're seeing is true, but it's completely not. Now, again, this would make the story very, very, very interesting, because it means that not only does, you know, potentially 1006 have a level of control, something that I'm going to bring up in a future video, but it also could mean that a lot of these innocent children who are transferred into toys are going on murderous rampages without even knowing it. You know, they're driven by their own basic primal instincts, which in a lot of ways is to feed, a lot of ways is for children. They want to play, they want to have fun, and they think they're playing and they're having fun, but in reality they're murdering people. Just something to think about. I think it's a really interesting concept. Now, there's a couple other things in here. These markings on the foot are really weird. I don't remember seeing these at all in the in chapter 2. I mean, he has this little weird marking here, but I don't remember seeing any marking on the feet whatsoever. So he's got this little mark here. It could be a 0, it could be a question mark. It's kind of hard to see. He's also got one on the other side, and he's got these like marks here too, which are a little bit weird. Maybe there's a pattern in there. It could just be dirt. He's been there for a while, you know. But this also, I think this is proving that this isn't the same Bunzo from chapter 2, because we know the Bunzo bunny in chapter 2, after Mommy gets very upset with him for failing the game, she webs him to the ceiling. And I don't see, and he's also got holding the symbols too. So I don't believe this is the same Bunzo. I think this is different. And there's nothing to say that there aren't multiples of some of the toys as well. So yeah, there's also, we've looked at the photos. There's this one, there is one here too, which I can't see anything, but if you actually look here, there's this one, which is much more interesting in my opinion, because this to me looks like, I mean, it looks like part of the photo. It looks like a torn photo, but it looks like there's something here. Like these look like eyes to me. And you could maybe say that this is an arm, this is an arm, this is a body. So maybe this is a picture of another toy, maybe one we haven't seen yet, or it could even be 1006, could be anything, we don't know. But it is weird that it's kind of just on his leg there like that, and it could be something different. It's hard to tell. Like it could be his leg has been ripped, but I think it does to me look like it's a picture. So I'd be very interested to know what that was, but it's really hard to see. Somebody on Twitter was asking why his head is ripped open here. Like, did somebody take a chunk out of him? I mean, it's possible, but I'm pretty sure his, this actually brings up an interesting point though. He looks very injured here. And then if you go to this one, he still looks very injured, but his head's intact. And then in this one, his head has been ripped open. And again, things have been moved around. So it's very, very possible that something is in here with him right now, or something's been around him right now, and something's been having a little grab at him, because his head's now ripped, his eyes hanging out, and the bird has been moved, and also these pictures have been moved. So very interesting. I'm not sure what that is. Is that another picture? I don't know. It's oh no, it's Bucky. It's Bucky. Ignore me. It's Bucky's handle. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. I don't know whether this was just something fun for Easter, or whether this is yet another teaser for chapter 3. We know, by the way, that the Kissy Missy VHS and the Huggy Wuggy one before that are related to chapter 3. It's in the video tag. So whether this is just more for that, or whether this is something completely different, who knows? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on it. I have a couple more videos. I have a very interesting video, and I know I say this a lot, but I have a very potentially very different, very interesting Poppy Playtime video that I want to work on. Something that I actually came up with today. So I want to work on that soon. But yeah, let me know what you thought. Did I miss anything? I probably did. There's a lot here and my brain isn't fully working yet. So I probably missed some things. Let me know if you can figure out what these are, what these markings are on his foot. Let me know what you thought. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you did enjoy, and it's good to be back again. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.